We all know that Rick Grimes is on his way back yet again, with all the news that Andrew Lincoln is indeed talking about returning, and there has been sightings with him and Scott Gimple together. So the question is, how is he going to return? We know that he will be at some point, but how, or how should he return? So in today's video, that's what I want to talk about. What I think is best for Rick's return and what is most likely. So let's jump right into this with saying that what I think would be a really cool idea would be he return at the end of Daryl Dixon. And we're getting discussions now about it. However, I don't think this is likely at all, sadly. I think because they're already filming Daryl Dixon and he's only just started conversations, even though it makes the most sense that Rick will return in the Daryl Dixon spin-off, because the whole reason he left was to go find Rick, it's not going to happen, sadly, which does suck. So it leads to the second option, which I think is how he is going to return: a brand new spin-off show. We are definitely getting basically a Ones Who Live Season 2 without being a Ones Who Live Season 2. It's not going to be Ones Who Live Season 2, but it will be a show about Rick and maybe Daryl and some of the other characters all coming together to do a hopefully more than one season story. Hopefully we would get maybe 2 or 3 seasons, maybe 4 at a push, of Rick and gang all together. And that's what I think is going to happen, and that's how he is going to return. Not next year, but I'm thinking 2028. That is how Rick is going to return. I definitely do think that this maybe shouldn't be how he returns. I think he should first get a small reunion in Daryl Dixon, but just because they're already in the process of making that show, and Andrew Lincoln's only said he's only started conversations now, it seems a bit too late in the game for Daryl Dixon to have the reunion in that show, sadly. And I think instead, Daryl Dixon will focus on having reunions with characters like LaRon. So when Daryl makes it back to America, he will see characters like Ron, and we could get maybe Aaron or Gabriel or someone like that. I think Carol should have a reunion with Ezekiel at least, so we could get some smaller character reunions at the end of Daryl Dixon, but I think it will focus mostly, as I said, on Daryl and LaRon reunited with a Walking Dead character, but it's not going to be one of the big ones like Rick, Michonne, and definitely not RJ or Judith. We're not going to see any of the Grimes family in Daryl Dixon, which does suck. But moving back to what I've been talking about with this new spin-off, I definitely think this is a 2028 thing, and I definitely do believe that this spin-off is going to try and connect all the shows. We have already had Gimple almost retconning the events of when Dead City takes place, with him saying the timeline doesn't matter, and him saying that the events of Dead City can happen at any point. So even though in the show they said, oh, it's been 16 years since the war with the Saviors, Gimple's likely going to retcon it so that this new spin-off show will happen right after the events of Dead City, and Dead City will now happen right after the events of Daryl Dixon, not 5 years after the events of Daryl Dixon. So there has been a lot of setup already and everything we know about this spin-off. All they need to do is say when the spin-off's coming out and confirm it's happening. I think it's all relying on, does Andrew Lincoln say yes? And I think he will at some point, and we're definitely going to get confirmation of his return by the latest Comic-Con next year. I can see Comic-Con next year, Andrew Lincoln will walk on set maybe at the end of the Daryl Dixon season 4 table and just be like, okay, this was happening. Next year, everyone come back. A lot like the Ones Who Live, we came on after, I think it was Tales of the Walking Dead, Andrew and I, and they were like, come back next year and we will talk about our brand new show, The Ones Who Live. And that's what I think is going to happen. We are definitely going to have a big spin-off, and it's definitely going to happen 2028. I am excited but also sad that they are retconning everything further. I definitely think they're going to retcon Dead City so they can have Maggie and Negan in the show. Even I feel they are not important. I feel like Maggie and Rick never really had a connection. They were around each other, but they weren't as close as maybe Daryl and Rick. And I think Negan, his rivalry is better with Maggie at this point. Just don't have the Negan and Rick reunion. It's not needed. And I personally think those characters should just stay doing their own thing. Don't need them. Let Dead City go on for 5 seasons like the original plan and not condense it down to 4. and just focus on this new spin-off with Daryl, Michonne, if she would come back, Rick, and Carol, and have those 4 characters with maybe Gabriel or Aaron coming back and having a maybe Commonwealth centered storyline with a brand new threat. We know that they're trying to carry this franchise on for another 15 years. So I think this story needs to be about passing the torch to the next generation. There's quite a lot of kids around, and I think you could have a 2-3 season storyline with Rick and everyone dealing with their last threat, and then ending it with, okay, now we'll be going forwards with Judith as our center of the whole universe. And I think that'll be a really great way. And I think that's all that's left for Rick Grimes to do. We have had his storyline done in The Walking Dead. We have had his CRM storyline done. He's made it home. He just needs some reunions. And I think after the reunions, all that's left for Rick is to hand on to the next generation personally. And I think that's what they need to do. And that's why Rick should return for a new spin-off, just to give us a final goodbye and to set up, I'm going to say it, Judith as our new main character of the franchise moving forwards. However, this is just my personal thoughts and opinions, so please tell me down below. Do you think this is how and why Rick should return for a spin-off to set up a new generation of characters and to say goodbye to his storyline? Or do you think it should just be for a Daryl and Rick reunion at the end of Daryl Dixon? Please give me your thoughts down below. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you later.